All right, everybody, we are back this week with the Touch 'em Up podcast. We have UFC BAKU, Hill versus Rountree Jr. quick fire predictions. This is not going to be the longest, most drawn out breakdowns on the internet, but we're going to give you my winner. We're going to give you a quick synopsis, and we're going to give you the reasons why I'm picking who I'm picking. So without any further ado, let's get it started with the first fight up. All right, up first, we got a battle in the flyweight division between Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Azat Maksum. I'm going to be honest with you just right off the jump. I don't really trust Maksum. He's got a good right hand, a decent jab. He moves around well. I think he's a decent scrambler, but I really think the biggest difference in this fight is going to be the grappling of Tagir. I think he's going to be able to chain wrestle with Azat Maksum, and I even think he's going to be able to compete on the feet. Maksum's clear way to victory is to land a big shot on the feet, probably that right hand we talked about, and pump behind the jab and just keep him at a distance and stuff the takedowns. I just don't think he's going to be able to stop the forward pressure and the wrestling of Ulanbekov over 15 minutes. I don't think he has the power on the feet to necessarily knock out Ulanbekov. Maybe he could land one quick shot and hurt him, but you know, I think that's kind of easier said than done, and I think the guy who's going to be able to push their game plan forward is a guy like Tagir. Tagir uses decent jabs. He moves around well. He has an okay kicking game, but his bread and butter is to use those long-range attacks to kind of shoot himself into takedowns with single legs, double legs, body lock takedowns, and use the wrestling to kind of tire out Maksum. And that's pretty much what I see him doing. I think he's going to be moving around on the inside, on the outside, sticking and moving, popping the jab. And then when Maksum throws big shots, I think that's when he's going to shoot in, get to the body lock, get the takedowns. I don't think it's going to be easy at first, but I think towards the midpoint of the second round, when we get into that third round, the takedowns are going to become easier. The top control is going to become easier for Ulanbekov to be able to accrued on the clock, and I think we could get a late submission finish. I'm going to pick a round 3 arm triangle choke submission. You know what? No, probably not an arm triangle. I'll go round 3 rear naked choke. I think he eventually gets to the back of Maksum when he tries to stand up and gets a finish. I could see a guillotine choke as well, but give me round 3 rear naked choke submission for Ulanbekov in the first fight up. All right, up next, you actually have a rematch from the regional scene with Daria Zhelezniakova taking on Melissa Mullins. I like Mullins all day here. There's no reason to sit and talk about it too much. In the first fight, she almost got submitted by Zhelezniakova. I believe she got hurt on the feet, and then eventually she just got to her grappling, got to her wrestling, got to the top position, beat her up with ground and pound, and I believe ended up getting a submission finish. I see this pretty similar to the last fight that Melissa Mullins had in the UFC, and I think the first round and a half is going to be close. I think towards the end of the round, the wrestling, the takedowns, the top pressure, the vicious ground and pound of Melissa Mullins is really going to start to show its head, and I think we will make it to the second round, but I just think Zhelezniakova is outmatched here. I think the fight's going to finish the same way it finished in the first fight. Or, I'm sorry, I think it's going to be a finish just like the first fight, and I think it's going to be with ground and pound in that second round. I think Mullins is just going to take her down, get in the half guard, land elbows, land hammer fists, beat her up, allow for Zhelezniakova to give up position, beat her up some more, flatten her out, and get a TKO in round 2. So I'm going to take Melissa Mullins round 2 TKO. There's always the chance Zhelezniakova could lock up a random submission. There's always a chance Zhelezniakova could hurt Melissa Mullins to the body because we have seen her get hurt to the body in the UFC before. But I really just think that grappling, the top pressure, and the activity once the fight gets to the ground is going to be too much for Zhelezniakova, and they had fought before and it worked for Mullins before. I think it's going to work again. So give me Melissa Mullins round 2 TKO. I think she's just going to beat up Zhelezniakova and eventually get that finish. All right, up next is a battle in the middleweight division. You have a fight between Ismail Naurdiev taking on Junyoung Park. Junyoung Park coming off a decision victory over Brad Tavares, a veteran, a really solid fighter with really good takedown defense, and Junyoung Park was able to get some takedowns off. Naurdiev's coming off a win over Bruno Silva, a fight I believe he could have finished and should have finished later in the second round and into the third round. Naurdiev is a different fighter at this point in the UFC. He racked up a bunch of wins on the regional scene, came back, then got that win over Bruno Silva. He's good on the feet, man. Good jab, good movement, really solid low kicks. He really chops and digs that low kick in, and he's got very good movement. He's always kind of moving on the outside, dancing in and out, circling, and trying to catch you and run you into some shots. I think on the feet, I would give the advantage in all-around striking, whether it's boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, to Naurdiev. I think he has more weapons. I think he moves better than Junyoung Park, but I do think that the jab of Junyoung Park and the 1-2 are probably some of his best weapons, and he eventually just starts to break you down. He's moving forward, boom, pop the jab. Moving forward, bang, pop the jab. Eventually, he starts to get that jab off a couple times, boom, boom, there's the 1-2. Bam, jab into the overhand elbow, like we saw him drop Albert Duraev with. He beat the crap out of Albert Duraev. Now, I think Ismail Naurdiev is a different level than Albert Duraev. I think he's more well-rounded. I think he's at a better level. And I think Naurdiev winning against Bruno Silva, yeah, he came in as the favorite. He looked like the favorite. He looked like a much bigger favorite than when the fight started. But I also think this is kind of a difficult matchup. But I will say, I think this fight is going to play out very close. I think it's going to be hard for Park to get takedowns, and if he does get takedowns, I think it's going to be hard to keep Naurdiev down. He's got good defensive ability. He's got good cage wrestling. He'll even shoot takedowns of his own. I could see him shooting on Junyoung Park, potentially getting caught in a guillotine, just like he almost caught Albert Duraev with. I think he has to watch out on the takedown entries, as well as be, mind his P's and Q's on the takedown defense, because you don't want to leave your neck out there for Junyoung Park. I do think the jab is going to work. I think Naurdiev's going to land some good kicks. I think Naurdiev's going to land some good kicks to the body. Park did lose a decision to Andre Muniz, which is not a good look, but I don't even really think he lost that fight. I mean, let's be real. I think realistically, I gave that fight to Junyoung Park. I thought he did enough damage. I thought he did enough to win, reversed some positions on the ground, and landed his own ground and pound. And they gave it to Andre Muniz, which is what it is. At the end of the day, I kind of see this fight as 50-50. It's very hard to pick a winner because I think either way the fight plays out, it's going to be close. I think there could be a finish on either side. I think Naurdiev could clip Junyoung Park on the feet and potentially hurt him, and I think Park could start to land that jab, potentially get some takedowns later in the fight, and look for a submission against Ismail Naurdiev. At the end of the day, I think the fight will go the distance. I think it plays out with Naurdiev striking and sticking and moving on the outside with his jab, with his 1-2, throwing some good low kicks, mixing in the wrestling, getting some takedowns of his own. I think Park's jab's going to start to work later in the fight. He's going to pump that jab, the left hook, start to maybe tire out Naurdiev, but I think Naurdiev will have the gas tank to go 15 minutes. And at the end of the day, I'm actually going to take the underdog. I'm going to take Ismail Naurdiev to win 29-28 split decision. I think he can do enough and have enough volume and enough output and enough success with the takedown defense and offense to win this fight on the scorecard. So give me Ismail Naurdiev to win 29-28 split decision. I think this is going to be a close and competitive fight, but I'm going to take Naurdiev here. All right, next up, we got a battle in the welterweight division between the Contender Series alum in Seokyoung Ko taking on another Contender Series alum who has had more fights and more success in the UFC up to this point in the Welsh gangster Oban Elliot. Really good fight here, a fight I'm really looking forward to, and I think Seokyoung Ko is actually being underestimated here. I like the way Seokyoung Ko fights, man. He stays on the outside. He fights out of that southpaw stance. Oban Elliot traditionally in the orthodox stance, but he will switch stances mid-combination. He's very good at switching. Seokyoung Ko is kind of that stay back, kind of lean back, almost like a Lyoto Machida style, and then he'll come in with the check hook. He'll slip, come back, counter with the left hand. He's got a very well-educated straight left or overhand left. Oban Elliot is a guy where, yes, he's looked really good in the UFC lately, but at the same time, he does have the tendency to get clipped. He does have the tendency to get hurt. He does have the tendency to get hit with some big shots. I could see him coming in on a guy like Seokyoung Ko and just getting blasted with that straight left hand right down the middle and potentially getting finished off on the ground with some ground and pound. I think Seokyoung Ko is a smart fighter with good fight IQ. I think both of these fighters are a defensive liability. However, I think the fighter with more heart and more will to win, no matter how long the fight goes, is actually Oban Elliot. I think if Oban Elliot hurts Seokyoung Ko, he's not going to really allow him to recover, whereas I think if Seokyoung Ko maybe catches Oban stepping in with that big straight left hand and jumps on him, he might land some ground and pound. He might look to set up a submission, but I think Oban Elliot is going to just be able to survive and be able to push through and be able to showcase that will to win that we've seen in pretty much every single one of his fights, even though some of his fights haven't really had that level of adversity. But even against Vail Woodburn, I mean, he got clipped, he got rocked, he almost got finished in that first round, and then he went to his grappling, he went to his wrestling, and he was eventually able to win that fight on the scorecards. With this one, though, I think Seok-Young Ko is very well-rounded in terms of his striking game. I think Oban Elliott might be able to have some success later in the fight, and that's kind of what I think is going to happen. I think early, Seok-Young Ko is going to be able to kind of stick and move. He's going to pop that jab. He's going to move. He's going to pull counter with the left hand. He's going to be jab, pull, left hand, straight left and a check hook, and I think he's going to really be able to kind of stick and move and poke and prod at Oban Elliott, but I think the longer the fight goes, Elliott's going to get closer and closer and start to put more pressure, start to put more pace, and I think we will see Seok-Young Ko slow down. I think towards the end of that second round, he's going to start hammering the body. Elliott's going to come through with the jab, the right hand to the body. He's going to be throwing that big overhand, coming through with another left hook, and I think he's going to clip him with a big right hand and hurt him, and then he's going to kind of fall against the fence, and Elliott's just going to pour it on with ripping shots to the body, knees, elbows in the clinch, and he's going to fold him against the fence and get a late second round TKO. So I'm going with the Welsh gangster. I'm going to go with Oban Elliott to win. I just think he's going to push a higher pace and a pace that I really don't think Seok-Young Ko is going to be able to keep up with. So give me Oban Elliott, give me the Welsh gangster, late second round TKO in this fight. I think this is a high-level fight, though, and I do think there is a world where Ko could catch Elliott coming in and knocking him out, but that's not what I'm going to go with. I think the pace, the pressure, the heart, and the will to win for Oban Elliott is going to be too much, and he will break Ko at the end of the second round. Late second round TKO for Oban Elliott. All right, next fight up is in the featherweight division. You have a battle between Mohamed Naimov taking on Bogdan Grad. 15-2 for Grad, 12-3 on the side of Naimov. I'm coming to the realization that I don't necessarily believe in Bogdan Grad. I think he leaves himself open. I think he can get knocked out. I mean, we saw him get knocked out by Tom Nolan on the first fight on the Contender Series, but something about this Bogdan Grad guy tells me that he's going to be able to push a pace and weather the storm from Naimov and break him down the stretch. Now, we saw Felipe Lima do that, but Lima was pretty much dominating that entire fight. You know, like, Naimov had some success, but for the most part, we saw that Felipe Lima should have probably been a big favorite in that fight going into it, but people just didn't really know who he was coming into the UFC. Mohamed Naimov, decent jab, good 1-2. Solid strikes in the clinch, knees, elbows over the top. He's really known for having a lot of power. He's got a win over Nathaniel Wood, which is a very, very, very good look at this point. You know, dropping Nathaniel Wood hard in that first round and then getting a lot of takedowns in the second round to clearly win the first two rounds, and then he gassed out in the third and just kind of got beat the fuck up. I mean, he basically beat the shit out of him in the third round, and he was able to survive, but there was a lot of fouls. You know, he'll grab the cage, he'll grab inside your glove, he'll basically do what needs to be done in order to win, even if, you know, you don't necessarily agree with what he's doing. But in this fight in particular, man, I think Grad is going to melt Mohamed Naimov. I think he has to weather the storm. So once it gets to 7 minutes in this fight, 7.5 minutes, that's going to be the time where, you know, if you're huge into the betting market, if you're on, you know, Bogdan Grad and you see plus 400, plus 500, plus 600, that's where you jump in, because I think the later portions of this fight is where Grad's going to be able to push a pace that I just don't think Naimov's going to be able to keep up with. He's not the most clean striker. He's not the cleanest fighter in the world. He doesn't have the cleanest takedown entries or the cleanest grappling, but Grad is a guy who will just push through, weather the storm, and just eventually just break you and beat you up. I mean, in the Contender Series, he was pushing through against Michael Aswell. Now, we saw in the UFC, you know, Aswell technically not UFC level, but he made that fight against Balaji close and competitive at certain points, and a lot of people are very high on a guy like Balaji. But, you know, Bogdan Grad, I think he'll just throw big elbows, big overhands, big left hooks, solid kicks to the body, decent kicks to the legs. He will use his grappling and his wrestling, and I think that's kind of where he's going to make the biggest adjustments in this fight, is where he's going to start to get closer and closer. He's going to land some hooks. He's going to land some elbows, land some knees in the clinch. He's going to push Naimov against the cage. He's going to start to get his takedowns off, and I think he's going to finish this fight late. But I could see him getting a greasy split decision, where maybe the early portions of the fight are just so heavy on Naimov because he's sticking and moving, he's playing technical, but he's landing big shots, and maybe he hurts Bogdan Grad, but he's not able to finish him. But I really think that later in this fight is where Bogdan Grad's going to just outwork Muhammad Naimov. I think he's going to start to push a pace that Naimov technically is not going to be able to keep up with. And when we get to that midpoint of the second round, when we get to that 8-minute, that 9-minute mark, that's really where Grad's going to take over. And I think he's going to start to land elbows, going to start to push Naimov against the fence. Naimov's going to give up some more positions. He's going to break because he is not good being the nail. He's only good being the hammer. And even in the fight against Khan Ofli, like realistically, he should have finished Ofli multiple times in that fight. And it was just a clinch fest with both of them hanging on to each other for dear life. That took me off the Naimov train. I'm on the Grad side here. Give me Grad via a third round TKO. I think he's going to melt him. I think he's going to break him. I think he's going to slow him down, and he's just going to push forward and not give up. And that's what's going to win him this fight. So give me Grad, third round TKO against Muhammad Naimov, making it dirty, making it nasty, elbows in the clinch, uppercuts, knees to the body, and breaking him later in the fight. All right, next fight up in the lightweight division at Nazim Sadykhov taking on Nicholas Motta. I'm going to be real with you straight out the gate. I'm on the Nazim Sadykhov. I'm on the Black Wolf side. I don't trust Nicholas Motta. He's not a good striker. He's not a great fighter. He's got a big left hook. He's got a lot of power in his hands, and he throws with a lot of power. There is always the chance he could knock Nazim out. You know, I'm not going to sit here and completely disregard Nicholas Motta. I think he has good boxing, decent power in his hands, big left hook, big right hand. But I just think he's outgunned, really. I think Sadykhov uses better kicks. He uses better movement. He can win in the grappling in this fight. I think he could get some takedowns and potentially eventually take the back of Nicholas Motta and get a submission. I mean, just go back and look at the Trey Ogden fight. Ogden was taking him down, out-wrestling him, dominating him, had an arm triangle choke submission in. The ref stopped it saying that he tapped. Nicholas Motta didn't tap, but he was going to tap, and the ref basically took that fight away from Trey Ogden. I see Nazim Sadykhov as, you know, probably with the same level of fight IQ as a Trey Ogden, but just a much more dangerous and well-rounded fighter, much more knockout power, more powerful boxing combinations, very good with the lead hand, the jab, the check hook, ripping the shots to the body, good uppercuts and hooks, slipping his head, but he does get hit. You know, the guy can get hit, he can get rocked. In the fight against Evan Elder, he was losing. It seemed like the forward pace and the pressure of Elder was getting to him. Boom, he landed that big head kick and cut him open. Against Bonfim, he was kind of getting pushed back a little bit, but he landed that question mark kick and knocked him out. Against Slava Borshev, he was getting outboxed, but eventually, you know, he was able to drop him in the second round with the head kick, almost submit him, get a 10-8, and then lose the third round. But because of the 10-8, the fight was a draw. I don't see Nicholas Motta on the level of a Borshev in terms of overall boxing ability, but he does have a lot of power. I think if you're on the side of Motta, you're taking Nicholas Motta or Nicholas Motta by a knockout, and I think it's possible, but I just think Nazim's too sharp for him. I think he's eventually just going to start to pick him apart. I think he's going to start to land body shots. I think he's going to start to land that lead hook up top to the head. He's going to maybe land a couple head kicks here and there, and I think he's just going to eventually slow down and break Nicholas Motta in the second round. Give me a second round TKO for the Black Wolf, Nazim Sadykhov. I think he finishes him late in the second and just starts to really put it on him and, you know, make some reads after the first round, which could be close and competitive. But give me Nazim Sadykhov, second round TKO. I think he finishes Motta, and I think he looks good doing it. All right, next fight up is in the lightweight division. You got a battle between Miktabek Orolbai taking on the UFC debutant in Tofik Musaev. This is a close fight. This is basically 50-50 in my book. I think Musaev is the fighter who probably will push a higher pace throughout the 3 rounds. You know, we've seen Miktabek get hurt, get rocked, like in that fight against Mateusz Rombeski. He got hurt, he got rocked, he got dropped. He came back in the third round and was continuing to push a pace. That's the one thing I like about Orolbai. You know, he may not be the best technically. He might get hit. He doesn't really move his head, but he will continue to push a pace, and he will continue to push forward even if you take a lead early. And I think in this fight, he's got a good jab. He's got a good check hook. He throws a good front kick up the middle to the body. I think that the body kicks against Musaev could be a good weapon, but Musaev is a very good wrestler. He chain wrestles and grapples very hard. Everything that Musaev does is explosive. There's not really anything he does that doesn't have a lot of speed and power behind it. Throws big left hooks, big right hooks, a good jab, a good 1-2, good knees to the body, chops the low kicks well. He can wrestle hard for 3 rounds. And he will continue to push forward and break you if you can't keep up, just like he did against Patricky Pitbull, I'm sorry, the brother of the other Pitbull who's in the UFC, he was, the fight was close and competitive, but the pace, the forward pressure, and I think it's like the mean streak and the attitude of Tofik Musaev that he just didn't want to give Patricky an inch. Good kicks to the body, good low kicks, good 1-2s down the middle, good check hooks, mixing up his combinations together, and he just eventually broke down Pitbull, beat him up, hurt him against the fence, and finished him off, And I think in this fight, that ability and the will to win, that's going to come from both guys, because even if Orolbai gets hurt and rocked, he will still continue to push forward and try to come back. Musaev has really good ground and pound. He'll get on top, land vicious hammer fist to your head until the ref pulls him off. Good knees to the body, good elbows over the top. He's a very solid fighter, and I don't necessarily think he's going to be championship level, but I think he's going to compete a lot better in this fight than people are going to give him credit for. I think Orolbai also is a guy who, like I said, can get hurt and come back and has that will to win. Both of these guys have heavy will to win, which makes me think that we're not going to get a finish. This fight's probably going to go the distance. I think Orolbai's probably going to be better at range, and Musaev's going to be better at crashing in and closing the distance, crashing the pocket, and landing some good shots. I think the fight goes the distance, and I'm going to say that the aggression of Musaev wins him this fight. I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to go with the debutant. Give me Tofik Musaev, 29-28 split decision. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be competitive. I think both guys are going to get hurt. I think both guys are going to come back from adversity, and I think we're going to get a hell of a fight here. But I'm going to take Tofik Musaev just by throwing the harder shots. Everything he throws has a purpose. Everything's going to look good to the judges, and I think he's just going to have the more aggressive performance, and that's what's going to win him the fight. So 29-28 split decision for Tofik Musaev over Miktabek Orolbai. But I could easily see Orolbai finding a finish, and I think Orolbai could win a decision. It's a close fight, but yeah, give me Musaev split decision. All right, next up, the heavyweight fight, the big boys. This fight was scheduled before. Now it has switched to a different event. I'm going to go with the same pick I had in the first fight, and that's Rizvan Kuniev by knockout. Blaydes beats higher level competition. Blaydes beats guys he should beat. This is technically a guy Blaydes should beat, but I just don't have faith in the durability of Curtis Blaydes. It's the same song and dance on a different day, and I'm not going to change up my tune just because the fight got rescheduled. I've got Kuniev knocking out Curtis Blaydes. Now, Blaydes could win. Blaydes could take him down. Blaydes could ground and pound or potentially arm triangle choke, submit Kuniev. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it can't happen, but I just think Kuniev in Azerbaijan, I feel like he's going to come in with a big chip on his shoulder. I feel like he's going to come in to finish this fight, and I think Blaydes is always susceptible to being clipped. He's always susceptible to being clipped, and I think he gets clipped here. So I'm going to say Kuniev makes the first round a little interesting, and then in round 2, he lands a big shot on the chin of Curtis Blaydes, which wobbles him. He jumps on him, lands some uppercuts in the clinch, overhands, drops him, and gets him out of there. Give me Rizvan Kuniev, second round TKO over Curtis Razor Blaydes. Obviously, Blaydes has fought the better competition, blah, 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 blah. I just really don't think that matters anymore, man. MMA is just so volatile at this point. Like, competition level matters in some fights, and it doesn't matter at all in other fights. I don't think we're going to get to a point in this fight where the competition level matters. So give me Kuniev round 2 KO. I think he's going to clip the chin of Blaydes. That's been clipped so many times before, and I think he's going to put him away with a barrage of punches. Rizvan Kuniev, second round TKO. All right, up next, we've got the co-main event of the evening in the lightweight division. You have a battle between Rafael Ataman Fiziev taking on Ignacio La Jaula Bahamondes. This is probably your most high-level fight on the card. I'm not going to sit here and tell you anything different because it's just not true. I think that this is a step down in competition for Rafael Fiziev, but I also think Fiziev has not looked that great in any of his recent performances. Barring the injury of the Mateusz Gamrot fight, I think a lot of people forget, like, Gamrot was outstriking Fiziev for as long as that fight lasted. Like, it didn't last that long, but he was outstriking him. He stepped in on short notice against Gaethje. He got dropped, almost got knocked out, ended up losing a pretty clear-cut decision. But Fiziev was always competitive. On the feet, in terms of the striking, Fiziev is always going to be competitive. Like, no matter who it is, no matter who it's against, he's always going to be competitive. I think the biggest difference here is the power and the knockout finishing ability of Rafael Fiziev. And realistically, I think this fight could play out like eerily similar to the Ludovic Klein and Bahamondes fight, where Bahamondes is sticking the jab, he's switching stances, he's landing combinations, but then Fiziev just lands a big body shot that drops Ignacio. He lands a big kick to the body that hurts Ignacio. But to be honest, man, like we talk about the knockout power of Fiziev so much, but when's the last time we saw him actually knock anybody out? I'll tell you, it was Brad Riddell, and before that, it was the knockout of, what's it called? I can't remember his name. Renato Moicano. He landed that beautiful left hook to the body, right hand, and another left hook up top to finish it off. So in this fight, I think it's going to be a 15-minute kickboxing match. I think if anybody uses the grappling, it's probably going to be Bahamondes, and I honestly think it's smart to shoot takedowns at the end of the rounds or shoot takedowns to hold Fiziev up against the fence. I just think that the output of Ignacio is what's going to win this fight, but like I said, I could see it being a case where Bahamondes is winning the entire round and then just gets hit with a big left hook and gets rocked, or gets hit with a big switch kick to the body and gets dropped. Like, this is a fight that realistically is a step down for Fiziev, but I think it's also a case of Ignacio being disrespected, and I've been at that forefront as well of not picking Bahamondes and disrespecting him. I finally, started to realize what I had when I picked him against Jalen Turner, and he won, and he did so pretty easily, I might add. So, it's not like Bahamondes hasn't fought long, tall, rangy strikers, but I don't think he's fought a striker with the power of Rafael Fiziev, and I think Fiziev will hurt him, but I'm going to say that Bahamondes recovers, and I think Bahamondes just out-volumes him, outpoints him, and probably gets some takedowns along the way, and I think he wins a greasy split decision, man. I think a lot of people are going to be, I think this guy won, this guy won. It's going to be one of those fights where you think one guy won, other people think the other guy won, but I think it makes it to the scorecards, and I'm going to say Bahamondes does more over the 15 minutes and causes, lands more volume and output. The damage is probably more on the side of Fiziev, but I think just the output's going to be too much, and he probably gets some takedowns. So give me La Jaula. Give me Ignacio Bahamondes. I'm going to take Bahamondes 29-28 split decision. I think he wins. I think it's going to be close, but I think he ekes it out and he gets the job done. Bahamondes 29-28 split decision is going to be my official pick. All right, up next, we've got the main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division between Jamal Hill and Khalil Rountree Jr. Listen, I think a lot of people are disrespecting Jamal Hill, but I think it's justified. I really do. I think everybody is like, Khalil lasted longer with Alex Pereira, but he got beat up and pummeled. It's like, dude, did you guys watch the same fight? Khalil was up on the scorecards until the fourth round where he got finished. So I don't want to hear he got pummeled, he got destroyed, and that was against the best kickboxer in the division. Jamal Hill couldn't even land a combination on Pereira before he got knocked out. Now, MMA math doesn't always work, but sometimes you got to be smart and stop being stupid. Now, do I think Jamal Hill is a good fighter? Yeah, I do. I've counted him out before. He's proved me wrong. I picked Glover Teixeira. He beat him. I picked Yuri Prohaska against Jamal. He knocked him out. I picked Pereira against Jamal. He knocked him out. So I've had an okay track record with Jamal Hill fights. And he's in a lot better shape for this fight than he was for the Jiri fight. In the Jiri fight, he came in with the knee braces. He looked like he was a little bit soft, a little bit flabby. But, take that with a grain of salt, because even with Jamal Hill in great shape, I still think Khalil Rountree is a terrible matchup for him. I think Khalil is one of, if not the best strikers in the division aside from Pereira. And, they're both southpaws, so that outside foot positioning and the angles are going to be, it's not going to be there like you believe it's going to be there. So it's going to be a little bit harder when it's southpaw versus southpaw. But at the same time, I also think that Khalil is just sharper in every aspect of the striking game, and I don't see anybody really shooting takedowns. I think Khalil is the cleaner kickboxer. I think he has much better kicks than Jamal. I think he lands his boxing combinations better than Jamal. I think he's faster than Jamal Hill. I do think Jamal has a good left hand. He has a good 1-2 down the middle. He uses that check hook very, very well. Could he clip Khalil and knock him out? Yeah, I think more than likely he could clip Khalil and put him down. We've seen Khalil hurt. We've seen Khalil knocked out before. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Jamal Hill clips him with a good counter and puts him down. I don't think the fight goes the distance. Knock on wood, you don't want to say that and then have it go 5 rounds. But I think Khalil over 5 rounds is going to have the longer combinations. I think he's going to have more, I won't say necessarily more output, but I think he's going to have the more effective striking. I think he's going to land the better counters. I think that the straight left down the middle, the 1-2 is going to be there. And I think Khalil has the better chin. Like, people are going to sit here and say, well, Khalil got knocked out by Kutalaba, et cetera, et cetera. He took a beating from Pereira. And you do have to look at that, too, and think, well, after taking all that damage, is that going to affect him like it did, say, a Bruno Silva? I think to an extent it might. His chin might be dust now, and he might get knocked out. But I think Khalil is the better striker in a primarily striking matchup, and he has more weapons on the feet in what's primarily going to be a kickboxing match without any wrestling. So at the end of the day, I got to take Khalil Rountree. Then that's really what it comes down to. I'm going to go with Khalil. I think Khalil lands that straight left hand on the chin of Jamal. I think he puts him down, and I think he finishes him off. Give me Khalil Rountree Jr. round 2 knockout over Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. I think this is going to be it for Jamal, especially at the higher level of the 205-pound division. I think he's going to get put out. I think he's going to get put down. And would it shock me if Jamal knocked out Khalil? No, because he does have a lot of power and he is a decent technical striker. But I just think the explosiveness and the technique of Khalil is going to be too much. And I think he finds a home for that left hand in round 2, puts him down, and finishes him off on the ground. Give me Khalil Rountree Jr. Give me the war horse via second-round knockout in the main event of UFC Baku. All right, that's it for my UFC Baku preview, predictions, and breakdown. Don't forget to leave me your picks, your favorite bets, your favorite underdogs, and your favorite fight to watch. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and smash the notification bell with your favorite kickboxing combinations to kick us into fight week for UFC Baku. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.